Mastermind Agent is proud to present Success Calls. Top real estate agents from across North America reveal their success secrets, strategies, and systems in up-close and personal interviews. You can find all the calls at www.mastermindagent.com.
Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to Success Calls. This month's top agent is Tina Caul with eXp Realty in Cary, North Carolina. Welcome to the call, Tina.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, Tina, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Real excited to talk to you. So let's go ahead and jump in. My first question for you, talk about what you're doing today. So I'd like to go back for a minute and talk about what you did before you got into real estate.
Well, I was 22, Mike, so I was really young. I was actually in school trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And thank God I had met my husband when he was 16, or when we were 16. We had bought our first house at 19. We sold it, and I met my first real estate agent superstar, Jill Bomarito, and she recruited me into the business. So that's how I kind of derailed my college education into real estate.
Wow. Okay, so did you get derailed into real estate early at 19 before you got your license, or when you were 22?
You know, my parents always bought and flipped homes, so it was kind of like a thing. They weren't licensed agents, but they loved to fix up property. So I was exposed to real estate. My parents are both serial entrepreneurs as well. So I had that, you know, it's okay to try something new and fail kind of gene. And so it was a very natural transition for me to go, you know what, I wanted to be a therapist, but I'm not loving this whole therapy thing, and the money's not that great, to be honest. And so if I sold real estate, maybe I'd make more money, and I'll kind of, you know, I know how to flip homes. So that was the message in my own brain, but I didn't realize that I was going to be a high-paid therapist.
When you say therapist, what was your training? What were you going to become a therapist in, or had you started down that path?
Yeah, so I loved just anything, like divorce counseling. I loved counseling people. I looked into the foster care network, like how the social workers, you know, helped kids and helped families. So everything was about psychology, social work, therapy, in that way of the mind and the human nature. So it was just natural for me to want to fix things in people.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people in that industry over the years. They love the work, they love helping people, but it doesn't pay well. And it sounds like that was one of the reasons that you went the direction you went when this real estate opportunity came in front of you.
Yeah, so Kevin and I bought our first home at 19. My mother found it for us. It was a townhouse, and we put in all of our money, and then we were broke. And we were in school, and we literally needed the money. And I said, well, let me just go work a little bit in real estate, see if I can make a go of it. And then I can continue, you know, with my path and in my profession, supposedly. But when I realized that my first year in real estate, I made $80,000, you know, back in 2001, it was good money for a 22-year-old. So I was like, this is my new passion. And I felt like I was still helping people. And so it was kind of just a natural fit. And I love interior design as well. I love to decorate. And so it was just very fitting. So I finally found my calling.
It all came together. So yeah. When you got started, it sounds like you might have started part-time. Did you start part-time, and did you start on a team or independently?
Yeah, so back 20 years ago, Mike, there weren't that many teams, you know, it wasn't a thing. So you just jumped right in. I started full-time. I actually was a part-time nanny, and then I started real estate full-time. So I could nanny, and then I could run around, you know, doing transactions. And I had it was funny because I started by knocking on the doors of for sale by owners and leaving them a package of information about me and the neighborhood statistics. And I remember I targeted 6 for sale by owners in my community, and I probably dropped off 4 or 5 different packages on each house every week. And finally I would call them and I would say, hey, this is Tina Caul, you know, I'm the local real estate agent, and I'm the one that's been dropping off those packages. And I would get such a great response. Well, thank you for doing that. And that was so nice of you. And, you know, how is it going? And again, I just was trying to talk to people and help them. And I remember one of the families said, come out here and maybe, you know, look at it. We're thinking of listing. And so, of course, I called Jill Bomarito, like, you need to come with me on this one. And, you know, she came and I watched her really list the property. And from there, I was like, okay, I think I got this.
Nice. So the packet that you were dropping off at FSBO's doors, what was inside that packet?
Yeah, so originally it was a little sheet about me. Again, this was 20 years ago, and then it was about our company because, of course, I didn't have stats. And then it was just neighborhood stats. What had recently sold, what was listed for sale, what was the community averages, just any kind of stat I could find, I put in there. And then every week I would show them the properties that were selling. It wasn't theirs, but they were properties were selling. And then I'd give them a little sprinkle about if I saw something on the exterior of their home, I'd write a little note, hey, might be a good idea to trim those hedges so you can see the windows, or, maybe paint the front door. I was there dropping off so just kind of helping them, really coming from contribution and not expecting anything. And then really I got rewarded for coming from contribution.
So you were able to list 1 out of 6, it sounds like. So statistically, you're doing pretty good, about 17%. Oh, 2.
2 of those first 6, I listed 2, and I'll never forget them. So yeah, I listed 2 homes. And actually that first listing was the Clausens. They ended up moving out of Michigan because that's where I started. They moved down to North Carolina, and I actually still to this day help them find a realtor there in Virginia. I'm sorry, they moved to Virginia, and I still stayed in contact with them 20 years later. My first listing ever.
That's great. That shows that you're building relationships right off the bat.
First, a quick word from our sponsor, RealGTV, Real Estate Agent Lead Generation Television. Need more referrals? Get a free script and simple 3-part plan used by a top agent to receive and close 74 referral transactions in 1 year. Just go to freereferralscript.com. That's freereferralscript.com. Now, back to the show.
So you started up in Michigan. You're now in North Carolina. We'll talk about that transition a little bit later. But I want to focus in a little bit more on this first year. You said that you earned about $80,000 in commissions to yourself. Do you remember how many closings that was?
God, people ask me that all the time, and I just don't remember. All I know it was $80,000, and I went, God, this is a lot of money. And my husband was so excited. We were kids, and all of our friends were in school, and here we were. He was making, I think, 40 at the time. I had made 80, and it was life-changing, because in my mind, I've always wanted to make 100,000. And so that was it. You made it in my family when you earned 100, because we were poor, we were not rich at all. And so I just thought, this is it. And if I can just help people find houses and list their homes and help them decorate, it was a passion. So from there, I never got into expireds the first 7 years I was at that brokerage. I just did fair sale by owners, and then I helped my friends and their families, and networked a lot with, I'm Greek and Italian, Mike, so we have a lot of, we have big networks. And so, so my dad always, he put the feelers out there. Everybody kind of came together in my family to help me get the word out. And for whatever reason, people did take a risk on me, right? They just felt I had enough initial success to where they trusted me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it. 80,000 up in that area that time. I bet that was somewhere around 20 closings a year to help people get a perspective of what that means in their market.
Yeah, it was. I remember like my best year before I left and moved. It was probably about 45 transactions I call it the first phase of my career, and then there was a second phase, like after coaching. So BC before coaching, and then AC after coaching.
So you got up to 40 closings in a year without any coaching?
Yes. I was coached by the people at the firm, right? So my mentors were whoever would just give me the time of day. My broker in charge, I remember Pete Schuler, an amazing man up there, Tom Booz. These guys just really kind of helped. They were just awesome. So I learned everything I could from the people at the brokerage at the time who were amazing, but I don't know that they had a choice. I'm just naturally inquisitive. And so I would just burst into their office and ask, what are you doing? How do you do that? I was a sponge at that time. And really I'm grateful for just how open they were.
Yeah, you had an advantage. You had people around you that were willing to help, and you were willing to ask for that help. You mentioned your very first listing, another agent, your broker came in and actually performed the listing presentation, and you got to watch. Yeah. What a great knowledge. situation, most people don't have that or aren't willing to ask. So I assume you continue to do that throughout your career.
Mike, I've picked up the phone and called top producers my whole life, and it's funny because now that I'm here in that position, considered a top producer, you would be shocked at how many people don't reach out. And now I have the time before, and they just don't. And the ones that do, I had a girl call me yesterday from Canada. I saw you on YouTube, and I helped this girl for an hour and a half. And she said, this is going to change my life. And I thought that really helped me in the early stages. But yeah, and the funny thing was when I did call, they actually talked to me and they were so excited to give back. They weren't gaining anything off of me. And so anyway, that's how I feel. If you come from contribution, pay it forward, it rewards you. Absolutely.
Successful people love to help people that want to be successful, right? There's really not that many of them that want to do it.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, this is great, Tina. I want to move forward a little bit. Now, you mentioned there was before coaching, after coaching, got up to 45 closings in a year. How long did it take you to hit the 45 mark?
So I would say 7 years. It was 7 years in my brokerage. So the story is, Mike, what happened to me was 2006 hit. So I was making roughly in my peak, about 150,000 a year. And again, I thought I had made it. I was the cat's meow. But what happened in 2006 in Michigan is the market started to tank. I know 2008 was the bad market, but we had felt it for 2 years. My income went from 150,000 to 40, and I was actually leaving the real estate business. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm not going to work and do this job for 40,000. I think I'm going to go into decorating. I took out an ad in the Yellow pages at the time, all in a day design. And I was going to go into my other passion, which was decorating. And I got 2 customers, Mike, and they both paid me $50 an hour. And I was leaving the business. And as I was cleaning out my desk at Sign & Monahan, GMAC Real Estate, I saw this flyer that said, earn $1 million in real estate by hiring this specific coaching company. And I went, okay, I think I'm going to look at this. Well, of course, I tell my husband, he's like, we can't afford $1,000 a month. You're leaving the business. And I said, well, honey, so he kind of crushed my dreams. I crumpled up the paper. I threw it away. And I would pray every night, like, dear God, if I'm supposed to stay in real estate, give me a sign. And so I was at my office the next day cleaning out, and I got an email, and it said, join us at the Action Workshop in Plymouth. That was the same coaching company. And I thought, well, what the heck? Let me go. I took my broker and 5 other agents. I said, come on, we're all struggling. Let's just go. What do we have to lose? And so we ride out to Plymouth, and we sit in this, room with maybe about 100 agents. And the presenters are telling us about coaching. Everybody has a coach. If you're a famous, football player, you've got a coach. And there were 3 agents that stood up in front of the room, which I'm friends with today. And you probably know Jeff Glover and Michelle Sayward, Bellino Bide. They were up saying, well, I make 500,000 and my income's going up. And I'm like, how are these guys doing it? And so I ran into Bellino Bide in the bathroom. I don't know if you've ever talked to her, but she's a great producer in our Grosse Pointe, Michigan market. She was earning about roughly at the time, probably almost $1 million. And she said, kid, if you want to be successful, you need to hire a coach. You need to surround yourself with big thinking people, and you need to read a lot of books on business. Now, Mike, I was a C student in high school. I didn't like books and I didn't like education, but I knew I wasn't the smartest kid in the class, but I knew how to sit next to them. And that was where I kind of went, she's right. And so I immediately signed up for coaching that day. I pulled out my credit card and said, $1,000 a month, I'm doing it. I didn't ask my husband, who he was very mad at me when I came home, but my income went, I remember, from 40,000 back to 100 and then to 150,000, just in a matter of a year and a half. So coaching really showed me that I could build a duplicatable system. In my business, I could call expireds, I could call FSBOs again, because I stopped calling them. Why? Because they're painful, but you stop doing what works in the beginning when you're grinding. And so after that, I actually sat with my coach, Kathy Anderson. She said, what are your big dreams, your hairy, audacious goals? I said, well, Kathy, my husband and I always dreamed of leaving Michigan because we live in a town where the wind hurts our face. And that's not nice. It's not fair. And she said, where would you go? I said, I don't know, Virginia, Florida, or North Carolina. She said, have you ever explored it? I said, no. She said, okay, when are you going? And so she gave me a date on the calendar, and our job was to go explore each town that we thought we would move to. So we Googled bestplacestolive.com, and it kept coming up Cary, North Carolina. So we went and visited Virginia. We liked it, but it just didn't feel right. We went and visited Tampa, Florida. Was not our jam. And when we flew into North Carolina and we landed in Raleigh, we were driving down the road, and I said to my husband, "This is it. This feels like home." And 10 months later, we were here. My husband left his job at the auto dealership. He got his license in Michigan. He listed about 10 properties in Michigan to learn. And we just took our $100,000 to our name. That's all we had, which is still a lot at the time. But still, we had $100,000, a 4-year-old son. We rented a house here and never looked back in a new town.
Wow. That is fantastic. And how long have you now been in North Carolina?
It has been, our first day was September 10th of 2009. So what is that, 11 years? 2009.
Very good. Now, before we move into phase 2, I want to go back real quick. Who was the coach, the coaching program? What were you talking about there?
Oh, it was the Mike Ferry organization. Yeah,
Right.
they're awesome. Yeah. So
Are you still coaching with the Mike Ferry organization?
I'm not. I did 12 long years, right? And at some point, and I tell all my agents this, coaching, it wasn't so much the accountability weekly that made me successful. It was the expansion of my brain that I flew across the nation and sat in a room of 4,000 agents. And the agents at the front, I remember Mike Ferry saying to me, I'm in the back row, right? Just going, oh my God, this is the first time I've traveled by myself. At that time I was 28 years old, new mom, and I'm in the back, and he said, "Hey, agents, you see these people up front in the suits? They make millions of dollars, millions. And here I'm like trying to crack 80, 90, 100 grand. And he said, if you want to be like them, you better be in the front row next time. You better get coaching, and you better listen to your coach." And so I remember buying an upfront seat right after that. And I said, I want to be with those people. I don't want to be with these guys in the back in their Hawaiian shirts. I want to be up there, because I was in my, nice outfit. And so it was collectively the mastermind groups that I started to insert myself into. Though that's where I picked up the nuggets. That's where the true training was, boots on the ground, the cold calling training. Every day I had 5, every week I had 5 different role play partners. That's where I learned and I practiced. The coach was there to keep me accountable to keep doing that. So that's why I tell people when they go, "Can you coach me?" Well, what are you looking for? To learn skills or to have accountability? Because I can give you accountability, but you've got to go earn the skills. You've got to learn. So that was what I immersed myself in, a culture of growth-minded individuals. And that was a game changer.
Wow. Surrounded yourself with success, and you became successful. We're going to talk about your stats in a second.
Yeah.
But I want to keep on your journey here. So we went into phase 2 now. You're in North Carolina. You've got coaching. You're starting to let's talk about that transition to the new market. How did you establish yourself in a new market where you knew no one?
Yeah. So great question. People think, oh God, it must have been, hard. And it was hard. The hardest part was, Mike, to take the 7 years of being an agent in Michigan, dissolving all that knowledge and going, okay, I got to start over. I didn't know how to get out of my neighborhood without a GPS on. How the heck am I supposed to sell a house around here? So I'm telling you, I had a mental breakdown. I think my husband was the one making the cold calls because I felt out of place. People down here have a little bit of an accent, so when you pick up the phone and they're talking with an accent, and I'm like, what did they say? So I just didn't feel in my element. And I'm telling you, for 6 months, I struggled mentally. And finally, I had this shift because my coach said to me, she goes, you better put your crown back on. You are a great agent. You are helping people. And if you don't help these people, shame on you, because they're missing out on you. And so she said, put your crown back on, dig deep, and get on the phones and do this. And I thought, she's right. I just have to get out of my head, because I thought, what if they asked me how many homes I sold? What if they asked me how long I've lived in the area? And my fears, Mike, were allowing me to manifest those questions. And they would ask me, and I didn't have great answers, so I wouldn't get the listings. And so finally, it took about 6 months for me to put my tiara back on and get phones and bring my confidence and really focus on the customer. And nobody started asking that question. They stopped asking. And then I would just use my stats from Michigan, and I would say it confidently. I've sold 40 homes in the past however many months. Or this is a tip I give to my new agents. If you sold 8 homes, you sold 2 times the national average, right? Because the national average is 4. So it's like you can really fluff things a little bit if you want to give yourself the confidence. It's not really the consumer, it's us. We need the confidence. Then the consumer believes us. So if you believe your own story and your goal and your dreams, they will believe you too.
Absolutely. Good points all. So you got to put your crown back on. I thought that was pretty strong, right? You got to be confident.
Yeah. So when I did put the crown back on, we sold 1 home in the first 6 months. And so we were like, what did we do? This is awful. And then in the second 6-month period, Mike, we sold 35. So there was a shift. There was a mental shift that I kind of just said, well, and the other mental shift was my husband coming into my office saying, hi, we're down to like 30 grand. So we need to sell homes or we're going back to Michigan because we were still receiving some referrals from past clients. So I had a little bit of money, but that was it. It was back against the wall. You have to do it. There was no comfort. There was no spouse making hundreds of thousands where I went, oh, I don't really like cold calling. Well, it doesn't matter because you have to. And so I studied the top agents in our market at the time. Marty Hampton's one of them. She was the top RE/MAX agent in the world. And I realized they have been in the business 20, 30 years. I can't duplicate their database. I can't duplicate time. I can get in front of people that already raised their hand. I can be better than the competition at my game, my skill, and I can get in front of them and solve their problems. And so expireds and FSBOs were probably 70% of my business, 80% in the first year, because of course, if I listed a home, I got a sign call. Well, now I'm building, right? But 80% of the business was FSBO and expired, just listed, just sold. My first appointment ever was a just listed call. And the lady said, I'll, come over and take a look at my home. And I said, okay, this stuff works. This is awesome. So.
Fantastic. So that was going to be my question, how you established yourself in the new market. You went with the prospecting, probably the scripts you learned from the Mike Ferry organization, just listed, just sold, for sell by owners and expires, and built that up and it clicked. Now, my understanding is that you grew to a substantial level as a solo or a single agent. Mm-hmm. How many homes did you sell by yourself before you brought in any other agents? So kind of before you go to the other agent part, how many was just you? I know you got up to a pretty big number.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I had grown from, 35. Actually, my husband and I were partners, and he got out of the selling side because he said, why would I bring in me when we could send you? Like, you're better at this than me. So he kind of was my assistant, which I do not recommend for any married couple. Until we hired one. So I got from like 35 transactions, then we exploded. It was like 60, 100 and 130 in my 4th year. That was it. The wheels fell off at that time. But when you think about it, 10 deals a month, when you're listing 5 or 6 properties a month and the other 3, 4, 5 are buyers, it really wasn't that hard to manage. It was just hard to figure out the systems that worked. And my coach used to tell me, because I never believed her. I said, Kathy, I'm so exhausted at 50 deals. She said, when you get to 100, I promise you it'll be easier. And I went, how could that be? Well, because I can hire leverage, right? I can have everybody do all the other things I hate doing. And I can spend my time building the business by adding in new customers, service by negotiating contracts. And then, obviously, just basically I prospected, I went on appointments, I negotiated, and that was it. That's what I did all day. So, so that's 130 deals in the fourth year. Maybe it was year 5, but I think it was the 4th year, because by year 5, I was hiring a team. I was building the team.
So you got up to 130 closings by yourself as the single agent who was working with all the buyers and the sellers. Yes. It sounds like you had your husband in the admin role. He was helping with the paperwork. So you have one admin assistant. Was that it when you hit? I'm curious about this 130. So when you hit the 130, it was just you and one admin, correct?
Admin. So my husband stayed with me about 50, 60 deals, and then we realized this is not working, because I was like his boss. Hey, did you get that? Did you fax that? Did you? And it's like, that's not good. So we hired Kelly Boyette, who was a rock star assistant, and she pretty much did even the negotiations on the back end for inspections and things like that. So I could go and be good at, just talking to people. So I had Kevin as the field manager. He would do all of our signs. He would do all of our bookkeeping, payroll, things like that. And then Kelly was my assistant. So it really worked out well. And when you get to 130 transactions, Mike, I was always so driven by the recognition and numbers. And I remember a week ago, I took one of my notebooks out for my team and I said, look at this, look at my goals. And it said to become a top 50 agent in the market. I was always wanting to get from, number 195 to number 1 if I could, right? And so the recognition of building something was exciting because my coach would say that. Could you imagine you come to a new market and you're a top 10 agent? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So she gave me the carrot. But you get to 130 deals and you realize you can't scale without people. At some point, you need other humans to help get you, to where you want to go. And so although I was earning, at that time, it was probably $8,000 a commission check. We had earned, that $1 million mark in GCI. I found that I was overworked and I was missing out on family time. I was attached to my phone. I wasn't having fun. That was the reality. I wasn't having fun anymore. So.
And I can appreciate that. And we're going to go to the solution that you had, but I just want to focus on some numbers for people, because as you mentioned, you surround yourself with people that do a lot of things. Your mind starts to open up. So it sounds to me like you hit somewhere around maybe 30 some transactions by yourself when you were doing everything. You got up to about 50, 60 when you have one admin assistant. And then by just adding one more admin assistant, you were able to explode all the way up to 130. Now, I realize you were off the rails going crazy 7 days a week, but I still want people to get the idea that you can do some crazy numbers as a solo agent if you chose to do so.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, if you want to exchange all of your time for money, you can do it. I mean, I remember nights I was driving home at 8 o'clock at night just crying because my son was already in bed. I had missed dinner, but the drive in you of building something, and showing your family that, we could have what others, portray to have. They look so happy over there in their fancy houses and cars and stuff. And you just want to get there and achieve it, especially being a college dropout, right? I mean, I didn't have anything to fall back on. It was this or bust. And I knew at the time I was so blessed to be earning more than, some doctors and attorneys, and these guys gave their lives to education, and I could just come in and, do this. Like, it's almost unfair, right? But it's a high stress mental game business. That's really what it is, so I did give up a lot for that.
I understand. One more question there. When you were the solo agent, you had 2 admins, you hit the 130, the crazy year.
Yeah.
Just from the business perspective, though, and the numbers, I must assume that was probably one of your highest profit years ever as far as a percentage of your gross revenue.
Without a doubt. The bigger you build the team, there goes your profit, right? You got to split it all. You're adding to overhead. You're putting people in place to give you time freedom. So you're literally buying back your time, right?
Making a trade-off.
Yeah.
Do you recall the percentage or how high the net was as far as how much you were bringing home versus how much was coming in when you were doing everything yourself in those solo agent years?
Yeah, so I remember at the time, because I would talk about it with my coach, Mike Ferry agents typically are really profitable, right? Because we don't do advertising. We don't do, gifts. I mean, even Mike convinced me I shouldn't buy gifts, which I do now, but it was like so lean and mean, right? And so I probably was at a 60%. 58, 60, 62% at the time, because we could keep most of the money. I was the one earning it. So I was self-employed basically at a high income level. So it was great. And really we built most of our wealth during those years, those first 5-6 years, because we could save a lot. We bought a lake house that's gone up in value. We have cars that are paid for. So we earned a lot of that. And then, went down the team route when I was unhappy.
So based on the numbers, and again, I'm about to wrap up this section, but it's really, you're a unique person that you did this. There are a few like you, but not a lot of people out there that did this. So it sounds to me like you were taking home somewhere around $50, $60, $70,000 a month in profit, but eventually there was too much stress to continue down that path.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor, RealGTV, Real Estate Agent Lead Generation Television, where top agents reveal exactly how they create consistent flows of home buyer and home seller leads into their practices every month. Need more leads? Hit the pause button right now. Open Google and search RealGTV. That's REALG.TV. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just look back, and I still have mom guilt today. Now, I ask my son all the time, like, do you remember when you were 4 and 5 and 6, and I used to pick you up from daycare late? And he's like, Mom, no, I don't remember, but I remember. So for me, it's that I gave up that time with my kid, and so it'll bring me to tears if I talk about it. But the reality is, the other thing, though, is he knows how much I sacrificed, what I built for our family, and we put ourselves on the path of success. And now it really put me in a seat where I can help others. And so you have to put the life jacket on first, help yourself first, and then help the people around you. So if I didn't make it, how could I be this giving person today where I've retired both of my parents today? Like, I couldn't do that if I didn't make the sacrifice. So.
And my guess is your son has now seen that model, and he now has a model, if that's something that he aspires to, for how to make that work. So I think a lot of things were probably happening in the background that we're not going into and won't go into on this call.
Yeah,
but
let's hope
it was a good model for him as far as ambition and success.
Yeah, let's hope. I mean, he could also, he's the type of kid you ask him, what do you want for Christmas? He's like, I don't know. I can't think of anything. That's a problem. If I would have had a book this big, you asked me as a 13-year-old, what do you want? I'm like, I want this and this and this. So, I mean, but looking back too, we grew up in lack, right? We didn't grow up in abundance. And so I also think to have an abundant mind as a child, that's actually a gift, to know that things can come easier. I mean, you still have to put in the work, but I'm still trying to figure out, we'll see how that works out for me and him.
This is fantastic. Well, I want to do this. I know we've been going down the path of filling in the story. I want to hit some quick information about where you are today and where you've been just recently by going through a quick stat list, by giving some people some numbers. They know I love numbers, so we're going to kind of roll through them real quick. And let me pull that up. I'm going to ask you a couple fast questions. This is our speed round, so just give a fast answer and we'll keep rolling. The first question is, what's the name of your team? If somebody wants to look you up, what's the name of your team?
So we're at Caul Group on Instagram, and Caul Group Residential is our formal name.
Caul Group Residential. And what is your service area? If somebody wants to know, maybe they want to send you a referral, where are you working?
Sure. So we're in the Raleigh-Durham area, the Triangle area of North Carolina.
Excellent. And that's Raleigh, Durham, and maybe Chapel Hill. That's the triangle.
Yeah, we're adding 70 new people a day are moving here, Mike. So we're getting all the Northeasterners and people from California. Come on down.
It's a beautiful place. My family on my mom's side is from North Carolina. It's gorgeous. So I'm really jealous that you're there. So how long have you been licensed? What year did you start?
2001. September 11th was my first day in real estate of 2001.
Wow, that's a good day. That's easy to remember. How many homes did you sell last year, and what was the volume?
Let's see. Last year we did 262. We were 101 million in about 101 million in volume.
That is fantastic. Do you recall what the GCI was?
It was about 2.5 million.
That is fantastic. And how many this year to date? How many homes have you sold, and what's the volume?
So this year we're roughly around 362. It looks like we're going to end right around 119 million in volume. About 3.5 million.
That is spectacular. And do you know what the GCI has been so far?
Yeah, so we're right around 3.15. It looks like.
That is great.
I don't like numbers, Mike, but.
And thank you. We prepared this, right? We prepared this for everybody up front. But I want to run through them. We're almost to the end. I just want to give people that like numbers kind of a big picture, something to grab into. What is your average sales price?
Average sale price in our market is $395.
About $395, just under $400. And last year, actually, let's talk about this year. What percentage of your sales are buyers versus sellers?
So I want to say, let's see where we got that little number here. I know we wrote it down.
I've got 72% buyers and 28% sellers. Sound about right?
70-30, yeah, because when I was in, so I'm out of production now, but when we were in production, it was more because I was doing the bulk of the listings. So yeah, 70-30 split right now, 30% listings.
Oh, this is fantastic. And I have that lifetime you've sold about 1,700 homes and just under $1 billion. Sound about correct?
That sounds right.
That is crazy. That is crazy. And you also mentioned another question I have is whether you're in current production. You said no. How long have you been out of production?
So last year I sold about 120 homes, 130 myself again. So I was running the team at that same level. I had more help, of course. So I had even people negotiating contracts and things like that. But this year I did about 40, but 3 months ago, I'm done. I'm out. I wanted to make sure that I exited very profitably because the hard part is when you exit and things could go, astray, you got to come back. And I didn't want to come back, into production. So, yeah.
Very nice. Well, that's what I want to do now. I want to jump into team side because people always wonder how you structure these things where you could step out of production, create a 6th or 7th level business. So let's talk about your team. The first question is the structure of the team. Could you tell me who's on your team? And what I'm talking about is positions, how many people are in each of those positions, what the position is responsible for. Let's take a quick kind of org chart look.
Yeah, so I still keep it pretty lean and mean. So I'm the visionary, I guess, at the top, the team leader, if you will. I've got one operations manager who wears a couple different hats. So she was also the sales trainer and the operations manager. We've since now are interviewing for a sales trainer to help her with that role. We have 2 licensed TCs, so one for closings, one for listings, and then they each have a virtual assistant. So 4 admin there. And then we have 1 onboarding angel. So we have this gal that is like the team mom. She onboards the agents to our team and our expansion teams, and she does everything for everyone. She's our angel.
So that's the admin side. How many agents do you have?
Oh, so we have, now we have 11 agents total. 12, I lied. We have 12. We just hired 2 more. So 12 total buyer agents, or actually they can do both sides now. I allow them to do both. And then my husband is still kind of in the background, does a lot of our marketing. He creates our flyers, does all the online lead gen, things like that.
Well, that is fantastic. So you've been in the business just under 20 years. Now you've been able to build up this 6th, 7th level business. And this sounds like the transition year. Have you, at this point at the end of the year, have you been able to step out? Can you walk away from the business for a month and it'll keep going? Where are you at?
Yeah, so even last year, even though I was still in production, we left and went to Europe for 20 days and we came back and they had sold like 30 homes. So yeah, now I can absolutely know that I could go to Europe for a month if I wanted to, and they're still going to sell 40, 50 homes a month. So yeah, that's a blessing.
I really like how you built your team, by the way, where you brought in admin first. A lot of people make the mistake of bringing in salespeople first because they want the revenue.
Right.
But you were leveraging yourself up first. And just want to point that out. That was a really good move. Something that people ask when they're trying to build a team, whether it's their very first assistant or their 3rd or 5th or 7th, wherever they're at, is they're worried that they're not doing their compensation properly with their buyer agents, with their team agents. Could you describe real quickly how you've structured that to make it motivating for people, but not pay so much that you're not profitable?
Yeah, I know. I always, interviewed other agents and team leaders, and I would call and say, what do you pay? What do you pay? And they just tell me. And so the ones that were paying these 70-30 splits were not very profitable. We've always been 50-50. We didn't even pay more for Sphere because I figured, you know what, if you have that much Sphere, you shouldn't be on a team. And so if I'm going to hand you my Sphere and then you're going to hand me yours back, we're going to do this together. So yeah, we are very clean, 50-50 splits across the board. So
it certainly simplifies things when you don't give a premium for where the source of the business was. Do you pay the same on the listing side as well as the buyer side?
No. So the listing side is 35%. So they do get paid 35%. There are some agents that don't list on our team, and if they give a referral to the team or another agent, they get rewarded with 15%, I believe it is, just for like a referral. Maybe it's 20 now, but 20% to refer that over. So yeah.
Thank you so much for walking down that path with me. I'd like to switch gears again now and go into marketing and lead generation, how you're getting all this business that's closing. We, of course, talked a little bit through email before this call, and so I happen to know that a big portion of your business, almost half, about 48%, is coming from Zillow. And so I'd like to walk down that path and talk to you about Zillow. How are you getting so much business from Zillow?
Yeah, so when you think about it, so our team has transitioned. When I was at the helm, most of my business, so 35% of the business was expired FSBO because I was making the calls. 35% was past client repeat business, and then the rest was sign calls, open houses, all that stuff. So it was like a 30-30-30. Then when we started to transition to let's start this team and scale it, I had been a part of Zillow since 2014, before Zillow was even cool, and I wanted those reviews. So I luckily was getting reviews on Zillow. So I was a partner with them for a long time before they were like the #1 most talked about, hated source of leads ever. But the reality is for us, it grew. You know, you started spending $1,000 a month with them and you saw the ROI, then it's 2,000, then it's 10,000. Luckily for me, our lender partners, am I allowed to say what they pay? Mike?
Sure, go right ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our lender partners pay $10,000 a month for those leads, and then we match. And the ROI is huge. I mean, we do make a good ROI on those leads. So yes, we are Zillow heavy, but here's the difference though. Our team still comes in and prospects. I don't make them because they service a lot of the Zillow leads. But if anything were to happen and that lead source went away, I am 100% confident that our team could get right back in there and get on the phones and generate. So it's sort of like my son. He's able to have all these wonderful things because I was successful. The team is successful, and we're allowed to give you the premium leads. So you're going to get on easy street for a while. But if things go sideways, guess what? We're all going back to boots on the ground again. So.
Right. We're all going back to the basics. So a couple quick things real fast. And you hesitated for a minute. And so I just want to clarify for people. Yeah. In order for having your lender or vendors participate in your marketing efforts, you do have to walk through a process, talk to an attorney, get your broker involved, make sure you're meeting all the rules of RESPA. And the money can't come to you. It's got to go directly to whoever's providing the leads. All these kind of rules. We're not going to go into all that other than to tell you there's a lot to think about and to make sure that you do it correctly. Tina obviously has, but just make sure that you do that with your attorney and walk through all those particulars. Agreed?
Agreed. Yeah. It's it's a partnership. That's for sure.
Very good. Thank you. If there's a way to do this all correctly, and there's a way to do it wrong. So make sure that you talk to them and get it done correctly.
Yes.
Let's move into, though, the Zillow itself and how those leads are coming in, how somebody could capitalize on the concept. So, for instance, how are you getting the leads from Zillow? I've heard people put a profile up. I've heard they buy leads, or they make sure that they're the premium listing agent on their own listings. They put their face in front of other people's listings. What are you doing to make sure those leads come into you?
Yeah, so I mean, basically the way that it is very similar to buying realtor.com leads or any kind of leads that you buy, right? And so Zillow, basically you have a certain area, a zip code, let's say, that you prefer to be in. And when people register on their site and they find homes, that we all give them to find, they basically send those leads to our team. The people at Zillow kind of scrub that person down. They get them prepped and they transfer a live call to our team. And then all of the agents are, on a system of rotation, or I think it's speed to lead. Actually, it's whoever is there can answer it first. So they run and grab those leads, and then they try to convert that customer.
Well, you said that Zillow is now scrubbing the leads and sending them over to you. I think that's newer within the last couple of years. You've been with them a long time, right? The old days, they kind of emailed it to you or texted it to you, and it was kind of raw. And now they're cleaning it up before they send it to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they used to just forward you the lead, and most of the feedback to Zillow was nobody called me, nobody followed up, which is true, right? I mean, I was actually getting hundreds of Zillow leads before I grew my team, and I was just not responding. And so Zillow's customer service was, tanking. And so they kind of are always trying to get the agents to do their job and really service these leads that come in so people will continue to use the platform. And so now when the leads come in, they have a service advisor there, whatever, that says, yep, let me connect you to an agent. They get the little criteria they're looking for. The agent gets a text message after they're done with the call. The client gets a survey that says, how did the agent handle your call? So they're really trying to just step up customer service, so they can keep staying in business and having us feed the machine, right?
Right. So it's kind of like an ISA that's now somebody else is paying for. They're qualifying the lead. Are they qualifying the lead in some way? Are they asking them qualifying questions?
No, not really. I mean, they're getting their name and their number and, making sure they don't have an agent supposedly. But, once we get the customer on the phone, it's still just a raw conversation. You're starting back over to build rapport. A lot of times the good news is these clients want to see a home. So you're not calling some cold lead off the internet that's just registered for your site and they don't know you're going to be calling. These people are looking for an agent. They want to be connected and they want to go see a home. So that's why I think the ROI is there and the advantage is there to buy the leads, even though agents don't like to buy leads. As long as the ROI is there, we'll continue to do it.
Do you know what your conversion percentage is on these leads? You said they're high quality.
Do you know what our conversion is? Is it 10%? Yeah, I would say 10. I was going to say hover 10%.
About 10%. So 10 leads coming from Zillow, one's going to close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good ROI, depending on how much you're paying for them. Are you paying per month a flat fee? Or I've heard that in some markets, Zillow is now doing a referral fee where they're charging a percentage of the final closeout.
Yeah, so we're not doing the referral fee. We did not sign up for that. That's a flex program. We were actually looked at to be a flex partner, and we did not do that because it's not as profitable for us. So I never want to give away more money than I have to. But no, we're just on a flat fee, $10,000, whatever you want to call it. And then we buy the zip codes and the leads come in and they're ours to do whatever we want with once they're on our side.
And you said the ROI is really good. Have you crunched numbers at all? Do you have any idea, like if you looked at it as a closed Zillow deal on average, what percentage of your commission is that costing you?
Yeah, I think what was the number? My husband's here with me. It was like 225 investment. Was that right, dear? It was 225 investment, I believe, and it was like 1.2 million in return. So
perfect.
It wasn't a bad investment. It was a good
investment. Not bad at all. About a 6 to 1, almost a 6 to 1.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. Another quick question for you on Zillow. I heard a rumor that they're thinking about starting their own brokerage, and people don't know what that means for agents. Have you heard anything about that, and will that affect you?
They have their brokerage license because they have to have it, right? It still doesn't affect me in a way because they're closing such a small percentage of deals, just like Redfin. Redfin's kind of the same thing. So in my mind, I go, Redfin's trying to hire agents to be hourly employees. I always tell my clients, do you feel like a Redfin agent, do you think that's the top agent at their game joining a firm like that? Or do you think that's the bottom of the barrel? Like, who do you think goes to work for companies like this? I think it's going to be the same thing for Zillow. If they really try to expand, you're going to get a lot of hourly or flat fee agents. And they've been around, Mike, forever. I mean, we've always had to deal with some sort of discounted program. Nothing really scares me as far as the industry in that way, because I think that if you're a good salesperson, you really come from contribution, you know how to lead the client through an emotionally draining transaction and get them to the other side, you're going to win. There's always going to be competition. Everyone's trying to break into the real estate industry. Corporate America is, obviously. And so no, I mean, I'm prepared. If things were to shift, we're prepared with a plan B, right? So, I mean, you always got to be prepared. And so, no, I mean, today, if it's a good ROI, great, but I still don't think top agents are not going to flock to become Zillow agents.
For Zillow, when you get those leads, could you tell us what your initial script is when one of these Zillow leads comes in? If it was to come in right now, would you be able to answer the call, and what would you say?
Yeah, so I don't train on it, but the biggest thing I think that we like to let the consumer know is, do you know why Zillow connected us? And they'll say no. Well, because we say we're the number one team in the area. We actually help 350 to 400 buyers just like you. So if you're if you're about to invest $250,000 or $500,000 on your investment, you probably should be with a really good advisor. So that's why Zillow connected us. So it immediately gives me the 30-second pitch to tell them why we're so great, and then why they should work with us. And then we really try to coach the buyers on, hey, sellers usually interview 2 or 3 agents to list their home. Did you know that most buyers work with the first agent that they meet? Isn't that sad? Because most agents sell this many homes, 4. So you're about to make $250,000 investment with an agent that's done it a handful of times. So we really try to push that we're seasoned advisors. My agents sell 40 to 50 homes each. Like, they're good agents. So that's really what we're trying to do, is set the tone on the call that Zillow connected us because we're amazing.
That's excellent. And if somebody was listening and you're new or you're not producing at those levels, keep in mind you can lean on your broker and whatever their stats are to show that you have resources to help with this transaction. And also, I'll point out that the public doesn't know that 300 transactions is good or 4 is good or anything until you put it in perspective for them.
Exactly. And, and if you're a brand new agent, you can flip the script and kind of say, I only take 5 clients a month. I only have time for 5 clients a month. You're not going to be one of those numbers on one of those big producing teams that talk about selling 300-400 homes. I mean, who wants to be a number? So, I mean, it's just I used to do that when I was the single agent, right? I had to show them the value of being with a single agent versus a top agent on a team, So I've been in every facet of trying to sell my own services to these clients.
Tina, that was excellent. Thank you so much. Tina, if you were going to advise a brand new agent who is just getting in the business, what would you tell them to do first?
For me, it's learning the skill of duplication. So, most agents do this with their business. They're on a roller coaster and they don't know where the business is coming from. They allow the day to happen to them. And I think a lot of agents are trying to go out there on social media, which is great. We've added that into our business, but you can't duplicate the result. So I knew every day when I got into my office, I could make $10,000 every single day if I wanted to, because I knew that I could get on the phones, get in front of people I didn't know, which the database of people you don't know is bigger than the database of people you do know. And I could just exercise every day of picking up the phone and making 20 human contacts, and also create the mindset of you're going to get no's. You're actually a no hunter. You're digging for gold, right? And so they have to really build that muscle of the getting over the rejection piece. It's not personal. My son rejects me every day. Do the dishes. No, I don't go cry, right? So I mean, it's that mental game of, you're an advisor, you have to hunt to build your business, you have to have a duplicatable system to succeed, and you have to learn scripts and dialogue. Now, I'm not saying be a robot, but I'm saying learn and understand how to lead the customer to the result that they ultimately need by learning the language of skills by other professionals, and then be yourself, right? Turn the script into you. So I would definitely say get a schedule, learn scripts, and then be around big thinking mentors, people that will grab you by the arm and hold you accountable.
That's excellent. Thank you. Tina, I don't want to miss a question that I think I almost forgot there. You mentioned your profitability when you were a solo agent. Now that you're doing this team and you're stepping out of production, what do you think your profitability is? What net profit are you shooting for?
Yeah, so last year with me in the business, it was about 38%. This year, it's going to be hovering right around 25%. So that's where, 25%. And then, which is about a net of around 800,000. So we'll net 800. And then I've got our expansion now model where, thank God, I've never been to $1 million in net profit. I wanted $1 million net. And so this year is the first year we'll hit 1 million net. So yay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That is awesome. That
Yes.
is awesome. That is inspiring as well for people to keep shooting.
Yeah.
Tina, why do you think you've been so successful?
I think that I've always, Mike, been a student, and I don't know it all today. I don't have the big ego where I have to, just run my number. Like, I don't need to sell 1,000 homes. I just need to be profitable. I need to know now what I don't like doing and then hire people to do the things I don't like to do. But really, if I could pick one thing, it's being a student of my craft. I knew who the players were, not only in my town, but around the nation. I listened to podcasts every single day. Every little nugget I could pull out of a podcast, I was writing it down. Then I was calling that person. Hey, I listened to this I've been listening to your podcast for years, calling probably half the people on there. And so I think that's it. It's just being a seeker of the information. Somebody failed faster and harder and can help you just not do what you're about to do. Just go ask. I'm about to grow a team. What did you do that wasn't working? I interviewed a lot of team leaders before I grew my team. And I interviewed one and she said, I built it so fast, I didn't have the right culture. 15 of them left me overnight and I had to go back into production. Ouch. Ouch. So yeah, I think it's just being a student. I think a student of the craft and always learning and watching videos or podcasts.
Excellent. Well, Tina, I've come to the end of my questions for today. Do you have any parting thoughts for the listeners?
I think just embrace the journey. My goals have changed through the years. I would go to conferences. I would pick up a couple nuggets. I would go back and I would implement 2 things, not 100, just implement 2 things per year that are going to change your business. And so I think that, in 20 years, I went from an individual mindset to, gosh, if you want to build something big, you got to do it with people. But then, oh my God, I have to now be one of those people they call leaders. What do those people do, right? So now my whole journey is getting over my fear of public speaking. I used to be mortified if I had to speak in front of a team, even my own team. So pushing yourself through your character flaws to be a better person. And then at the end of the day, I think, truly being profitable, saving your money and learning how to invest it. So you can have a really big life after the end of this, because at some point you're not going to be able to sell hundreds of homes every year for forever. So that's it.
Tina, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us on Success Calls.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thank you, Tina. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us on Success Calls. Keep moving forward. Bye.
Bye.
If you like the show and want to know when the next one's coming out, click the subscribe button. And if you want to hear more episodes like this, give the show a 5-star review and write a quick comment. I read them all, and it motivates me to keep going and share the top agent success stories with you. Thanks. If you're looking for more ways to generate leads, check out our sponsor, RealGTV, Real Estate Agent Lead Generation Television, and their giant database library of video trainings where top agents reveal, demonstrate, and discuss their best lead generation methods. Visit RealGTV, REALG.TV. If you're low on funds or just want to get the maximum leverage, check out my masterclass webinar titled Top 5 Free Lead Sources for Real Estate Agents. Learn more at freeleadtime.com. That's freeleadtime.com. Oh, and if you have a real estate friend who needs some inspiration, tell them about the Success Calls podcast. And don't you forget to subscribe right now to hear all the great top agent ideas. Keep moving forward.
You've been listening to Success Calls on the Mastermind Agent Network, where top real estate agents from across North America reveal their success secrets, strategies, and systems in up-close and personal interviews. You can find all the calls at www.mastermindagent.com.